Well, first of all, congratulations on Didi being chosen to open the festival. I guess the appropriate question is your reaction to getting that news, and then how special is it that it's in the Bay Area where you're from?
It's so special. I remember getting the email from Jesse that we got, that we were going to be programmed at SFFILM, and I literally cried at the airport because I was like, that was sort of the big homecoming premiere that I wanted, because also SFFILM really supported this movie from the beginning and gave me 2 development grants, and without both of those grants and without the support and the infrastructure of the people at SFFILM, I don't think this movie would have literally happened. Not, at least not in the way that it did. I met one of my producers, Josh, through an SFFILM sort of like meet cute. It's a whole story, but it was through SFFILM that we met, and now I hope I get to work with him for the rest of my life. It just sort of, the SFFILM watered so many of the seeds of this movie that grew into what it is today. So to get to be back in the Bay Area with all my family and friends coming is like so cool.
So we know some of your previous movies have had a very personal connection to you. How personal is Didi?
It's just as personal, if not more personal, maybe the most personal out of everything. It's definitely the one I've worked on the longest. From inception to now, it's been about 7 years. And so it's the first film that I've had that experience where you kind of work on it and you let it live with you. And as you kind of grow up and live life, it tells you what it wants to be. And so I think over the course of those 7 years, the hope and the goal with the movie was to just, how do we make this more personal and more specific? And when you live with something for 7 years, you get to really do that, that sort of analysis and that growth with a project. And so it's very personal, and so I'm really excited to share it.
Isaac Wang, Shirley Chen getting really good reviews. Of course, they're Taiwanese American actors. What can you share about the casting and how you crewed up locally for this film and trying to stay true? It's okay. In trying to stay true to your culture.
I mean, the casting was sort of, we had this ethos where by simply just casting specifically to the demographics and the specifics of people and friends that I grew up with in Fremont, California, starting with what was on the page, writing hyper-specifically to characters of specific cultural backgrounds, we would ultimately create a movie that was hopefully reflective of like the country at large, and using this very specific corner of the Bay Area, one that I know intimately, one that where I grew up, trying to access something that was hyper local in order to get to something that was talking about bigger themes like identity and belonging and adolescence and shame and joy through the lens of like an immigrant family and an immigrant kid. But ultimately the casting came down to that. It wasn't like we weren't trying to check boxes. Going back to the personal, it was always what's the personal thing, what feels honest to me, and that's in the way that is sort of how it was most personal. It was whenever I felt lost and whenever I felt like does this movie want to be, and instead of looking at the other movies of its kind to try and have a path forward, I instead look at my own childhood and be like, okay, well, what's the honest version first, and then going from there and seeing where we could change it or modify it or just shape it to serve the themes of our story.
Last one for you. What do you not get asked, or have you not been asked about Didi that you would like people to know and that you'd like to share?
One thing, I mean, I don't know if this is answers your question, but a lot of people ask me about the movie, but I think what makes this movie so special too is all the people that worked on it with me, and a lot of our department heads are people that like my DP I've worked with for 10 years. He's one of my best friends, and this is the first feature film that he shot. It's one of our producers. For 2 of them, it's their first movie that they lead produced. For casting directors, it's the first movie that they've ever casted. Yeah, rookies in that sense, but a lot of people who I think it just goes to show you get so many people took a risk on me and gave me a chance to make this movie, and I think there's so many people who this movie is their first movie, but it doesn't mean we made a lesser movie. I think it actually made our movie better because we were just well, we should just do what feels right to us, and I think we all came together and tried to make something that felt good and right and honest to us, and I think hopefully we contributed something new to a very oversaturated genre.